Okay, hello everyone. So this will be the continuation of our face-to-face discussion, okay, for intangible assets. Yeah. Okay, so as just a quick review. Okay, so remember that the necessary or the three necessary or essential characteristic of an intangible asset is that it must be first identifiable. The second one is there must be control. Okay, and the third one is there is future economic benefit. Now, so since we are talking about identifiability, which is an essential characteristic of an intangible asset. So let's discuss the different or the intangible assets that are identifiable. Okay, so if the intangible asset no, is acquired through purchase, pag binili, meaning through separate acquisition, there is a transfer of legal right, okay, that would make the asset identifiable. Kasi kapag bumili ka, that is a contract, right? A sale is a contract. So a contract, it emanates or it emanates from legal right. Okay, so if the asset could be sold, transferred, licensed, rented, or sold separately, then the intangible asset is identifiable. So we have here the examples of identifiable intangible assets, no? So pasensya na sa mga writings. Ayan. So we have here number one, patent. Very common siya. Copyright, franchise, intangible, trademark or brand name, leasehold or lease right, computer software, broadcasting license, airline right, and fishing right. Yeah. But we'll focus our discussion to this until letter E. Yeah. So now, if there is identifiable intangible asset, which will be classified separately in the balance sheet, which is part of the non-current asset portion, uh, kapag may identifiable intangible asset, meron din palang unidentifiable intangible asset. Now, the only unidentifiable intangible asset is goodwill. No? So, kung ang identifiable intangible asset is pwede mo siya mabenta, no, pwede siya ma-transfer, pwede siya ma-license, ma-rent or exchange separately, yung unidentifiable intangible asset naman is kabaliktaran. Meaning, it cannot be sold, it cannot be transferred or licensed or rented or exchanged separately. So the intangible asset is inherent, no, in a continuing business and can only be identified with the business or entity as a whole. Meaning, kung walang business, wala itong intangible asset na ito. Okay, it only exists with the business as a whole. So ano ba yung very good or perfect example, no, of an unidentifiable intangible asset? Actually, it squarely describes goodwill. Yan. So goodwill is the only unidentifiable intangible asset. Now, after which, no, measurement after recognition. So balik na tayo sa main provision of intangible asset. So an entity shall choose either the cost model or evaluation model as an accounting policy. So initially, it shall be measured, or the intangible asset shall be measured at cost plus, okay, transaction price, depending on the mode of acquiring, no, the intangible asset, no, whether it is initially purchased, no, through separate acquisition, through an exchange, no, government grant, or as a result of a business combination, and or by self-creation or generation. But regardless, no, after initial recognition, subsequent to that, pwede gamitin ng entity si cost model or evaluation model. So the same cost model and evaluation model na we learned, no, in our discussions sa property, plant, and equipment. Now, if property, plant, and equipment, or if the cost of the property, plant, and equipment is allocated, no, over the useful life of the asset through depreciation, the cost of the intangible asset naman is allocated over the life, useful life or legal life of the intangible asset through amortization. Now, paragraph 97 of PAS 38 states that intangible assets with limited or finite useful life are amortized over their useful life. Now, another paragraph 107 and 108 states that intangible asset with indefinite life are not amortized but are tested for impairment at least annually and whenever there is an indication that the intangible asset may be impaired. So, unahin natin no, itong number 1 under paragraph 97, ina-amortize natin ang intangible asset kapag ang intangible asset ay may limited, meaning hindi siya nag-sustain or hindi siya nagagamit forever. So limited or may finite life. So ina-amortize natin siya over its useful life. The reason is that may mga asset din kasi na may infinite useful life. No? For example, trademark. No? In the Philippines, trademark has a legal useful life of 10 years. No? But pwede natin siya i-renew no? Yung trade name. Ang trade name. No? So, it can be renewed indefinitely. So, meaning kahit na meron siyang 10-year useful life, pwede naman pala siya nare-renew indefinitely, then it means that trademark generally can be an intangible asset with infinite or unlimited life. Ayan. So if that's the case, no, kapag ang asset ay walang limited life, meaning unlimited or infinite yung useful life niya, then hindi siya ina-amortize. Remember that. Kapag ang intangible asset ay may infinite or unlimited useful life, meaning you can use it forever, then an intangible asset shall not be amortized but tested for impairment at least annually and whenever there is an indication that the intangible asset may be impaired. Ayan. Now, let's talk about the impairment of an intangible asset. So, intangible assets with finite useful life, again, tinitest din natin sila for impairment but not annually. Okay? Kasi may finite useful life man sila, ina-amortize man natin yung cost nila over its useful life. So, hindi natin sila ini-impair annually. Hindi natin sila tinitest for impairment annually. Itong mga intangible asset na may finite useful life. No? So, tinitest lang natin sila for impairment if there is an indication of impairment na at the end of the reporting period. Now, if it so happen na kapag at the end of the reporting period, wala namang indication na impaired si intangible asset, huwag na natin silang i-test for impairment. Now, if the intangible asset naman ay merong indefinite useful life, meaning they can live forever, that's the time dahil hindi natin sila ina-amortize, tinitest natin sila for impairment at least annually, even if there is no indication. So kahit na walang indication of impairment or walang indication na impaired yung asset at the end of the period, tinitest pa rin natin sila for impairment kasi they have indefinite useful life or anytime. No? Tinitest natin sila for impairment anytime kapag may indication that the intangible asset is impaired. Yeah. So again, the difference is that si intangible asset na may finite or limited useful life, tinitest lang natin sila for impairment whenever there is an indication that impaired sila at the end of the period. Kung walang indication, walang testing for impairment. Si intangible asset na may indefinite useful life, tinitest natin sila for impairment at least annually kahit na walang indication na impaired sila. And every time that or whenever that there is an indication na impaired sila. So kahit na for example, at the end of the month, may indication na impaired sila o tinitest natin sila for impairment. Okay? Or kapag during the year, walang indication o tinitest pa rin natin sila at the end of each reporting period annually, at least annually. So how would you recognize an impairment loss? So the impairment loss on an intangible asset is recognized if, okay, basic no na concept ng impairment loss, if the recoverable amount, o paano nga kunin si recoverable amount, the higher between the fair value less cost to sell and value in use. Whichever is higher between the fair value less cost to sell and value in use, yun yung recoverable amount mo. So yung recoverable amount mo, i-compare mo siya sa carrying amount. Pag mas maliit na nga si recoverable amount kaysa sa carrying amount, then that's the time that there is impairment. So you have to recognize impairment loss. Ayan. So we already discussed, no? Alam na natin kung ano yung fair value less cost to sell. Okay? And the value in use of an asset. No? Again, whichever is higher between fair value less cost to sell and value in use, yun yung recoverable amount natin. And then, pag kinumpare natin yung recoverable amount sa carrying amount, mas maliit sa recoverable amount, then the asset is impaired. Yeah. Now, let's discuss more no, about amortization. Yeah. So, again, kung si PPE, dine-depreciate natin, si intangible asset naman ina-amortize. So amortization is the systematic allocation of the amortizable amount of an intangible asset over the useful life. So the amortizable amount is the cost of the intangible asset less residual value. So the same concept no, with PPE. So PPE, that's carrying cost minus residual value, that's the depreciable amount. Okay, kay intangible asset naman, that's cost of the intangible asset minus residual value, that's the amortizable amount. So, kapag nagre-record tayo ng amortization, debit lang amortization, no? As an expense and credit natin yung intangible asset mismo. Pwede din naman accumulated amortization yung kinikredit natin instead of the intangible asset. So, pwede, pag nag-amortize, debit amortization expense, credit the intangible asset, for example, patent o credit patent. Pwede din debit amortization expense, credit accumulated amortization. So the amortization period is the what? This is the basis of how are you going to, or how long will you amortize the cost of the intangible assets. So it shall be amortized on a systematic basis over its useful life. So kailan magsa-start ang amortization? If the asset is available for use. Meaning if the intangible asset is now available for use, then that should be the time that amortization shall start. Okay, and when the asset is in the location, o kapag meron na siya sa location and it is already in its condition for its intended use, again, that's the time na magsa-start ang amortization. And it shall cease when the intangible asset, or magsa-stop siya when the intangible asset is derecognized. So kapag tapos na yung useful life niya, or kapag the asset is classified na siya as held for sale. And kapag it's already in its condition na ibebenta siya. So kapag ang asset ay binibenta, di ba? Hindi na siya dapat in-amortize. So kapag si PPE, it is now held for sale, meaning ibebenta na siya, dapat si PPE hindi na pwede i-depreciate. So the same applies to intangible assets. Okay, so we've already discussed this one. Okay, useful life. So the useful life of an intangible asset must be assessed, either indefinite or finite. So when you say indefinite, meaning it can be used or it can live forever legally. Pag finite naman, limited lang yung useful life niya. So if finite naman siya, the useful life may be expressed in terms of years. Ilang years ba siya pwede gamitin, or ilang number of units of goods lang ba yung pwede niya ma-produce. The useful life of an intangible asset is indefinite when walang foreseeable limit sa period over which the asset is expected to generate net cash flow. Yan. Meaning you can use it forever, or meaning hindi man forever, but wala kang exact exact number of period kung kailan lang siya pwede gamitin. if that's the case, then the asset has a infinite useful life. So we have here the factors affecting useful life. So the technical, technological, commercial, or other types of obsolescence, expected action by competitors, market-based naman to na factors ng useful life, expected usage, typical product life cycle for the asset, ayan, and so on. So the amortization method shall reflect the pattern in which the future economic benefit from the asset are expected to be consumed by the entity. However, kung yung pattern naman is hindi siya nadidetermine reliably, then yung gamitin na lang natin is straight line method of amortization of an intangible asset. So yung residual value naman is the same concept. Okay? Kapag nabebenta mo yung intangible asset at the end of its useful life for value, so meaning meron siyang residual value. So the residual value of an intangible asset shall be presumed to be zero. Again, in the absence of any statement to the contrary, the residual value of an intangible asset is presumed to be zero. Okay, wala, zero. Except if merong third party na committed si third party to buy the intangible asset at the end of the useful life. Okay? So meaning, for example, may kausap ka na third party, they are very committed na bilhin yung intangible asset at the end of its useful life. If that's the case, meron yung siyang residual value. Pero kapag wala namang commitment from a third party o walang residual value yung intangible asset mo, or when there is an active market, kapag meron daw active market for the intangible asset, so that the expected residual value can be measured and it is probable na there will be a market for the asset at the end of its useful life. So it is only in these two cases na may residual value yung intangible asset. Kung wala tong dalawang to, either of the two, then the residual value of the asset is zero. Again, may residual value lang yung intangible asset natin kapag una, may committed third party to buy the asset at the end of its useful life, or meron siyang active market na pwede natin mabenta yung intangible asset at the end of its useful life. And it is reviewed at each financial year end. Any changes is accounted for as a change in accounting estimate. Okay, kapag change in accounting estimate, the effect is prospective, meaning lahat ng nangyari in the past is in the past na. No need to change. Kapag may change in amortization method and kapag may change yung useful life ng intangible asset, okay, it shall be reviewed at each, kasi yung amortization method and useful life kasi ay nire-review yun siya at each financial year end. So if the expected useful life of the intangible asset is significantly different from previous estimate, then i-update mo lang yung amortization period. If there is also a significant change kung paano ginagamit o yung pattern of usage of the asset, then the amortization method shall also be changed to reflect the said pattern. And again, such changes of amortization method and useful life shall be accounted for as a change in accounting estimate, and will therefore shall be treated currently and prospectively. Yan. So wala nang retroactive at restatement kapag change in accounting estimate. So when would you recognize an intangible asset? When the asset is disposed of, kasi nga wala nang tapos na yung useful life or legal life niya, and kung wala na siyang future economic benefit, meron pa siyang useful life pero wala na siyang future economic benefit, for some reason, for example, natalo ka sa case, so for some reason you'll have to stop using the asset kahit meron pa siyang useful life, natalo ka na sa case, so illegal na kapag you will still continue to use the asset. So kapag meron na siyang pa rin siyang useful life and you legally lose the certain case, i-write off mo na yung account niya, yung carrying amount ng intangible asset. So gains and losses arising from the recognition of an intangible asset shall be determined as the difference between the net disposal proceeds or yung salvage value niya. Okay, compare mo lang siya sa carrying amount of the asset. And here are the disclosures no, related to the intangible asset, no, such as the useful life, the kapag finite or infinite ba, and the useful lives no, or the amortization rate, the amortization method, the carrying amount, the line item in the income statement in which yung amortization of intangible asset is included, no? Part ba siya sa expense, operating expense, part ba siya sa cost of goods sold, or cost of the product. Yan. Okay? And yan. So, meron pa tayong additional disclosures. Yan. Basahin nyo na lang yan. So, in our next video, we'll discuss patent and accounting for patent and trademark specific in identifiable intangible assets.